For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's sixth practice of spring camp. We got to talk to Clay Helton before practice, and he previewed it as another full padded day. He said they're going to put the ball down and see where they stand. Shotgun, it seems like the defense, like we've seen normally in spring camps, is ahead of the offense. What did you see today?
I mean, the defense dominated today. The defense, the last Saturday, they were kind of equal with the offense. You said maybe that's a little bit concerning because you expect the defense to be ahead. But today they, absolutely dominated. They did some third down situations, and the offense barely got any first downs in those type of situations. So I think it all starts at the front. The defensive line is playing really well right now, and I think that's the biggest thing is they're dominating the offensive line. And maybe you expect that because of a new offensive line coach and trying to get the scheme in with some new pieces. You're moving a little bit around. But right now the defense is definitely way ahead of the offense.
It was a day for third down situations. We saw both the run game and passing game. What did you see in those situational drills?
Some of the running backs did flash for you, but the offense line's not opening up a lot of holes for them. We saw some positives again from Keontae Ingram, from Brandon Campbell. Brandon Campbell had another nice run, 12-yard run in a drill. Vi Malapei had 2 touchdowns. He had one in the team run period, and then one in the full team period, about a 50-yarder in that one actually. So that was a missed assignment somewhere on the defense there. So there are some positives in the run game, but they've got to be more consistent, and that's the thing. It looked a lot like last year in the third and short situations. There was a lot of tackles for loss. Just stuffed at the line of scrimmage. There wasn't a lot of holes. And I think it's a process with a new offensive line coach. But right now the defense is dominant. They're flying all over the ball, and you see they're playing with a lot of passion, playing with a lot of energy on that side. And when you're having success, obviously that's going to come.
We've had left tackle watch, as we've called it so far in spring camp, and we were curious because they said they would do mixing and matching, but so far we've only seen Cortland Ford at left tackle. Well, Clay Helton gave some clarity today. He said that they will start to do that soon. I think it sounded like they wanted to have a couple practices to see how that line fits, those 5 guys, and then switch it up from there.
Yeah, it seemed like he was saying that, hey, we're going to go through 2 weeks, so through today, and we're going to leave everybody where they're at and maybe just give Clay McGuire kind of that opportunity to get a baseline on everyone, and then they're going to start mixing and matching starting next week. Now, it's interesting because you're a week away from the spring game, so we'll see how they kind of play that out with this week coming up with the spring game, and then after that, how you're going to do it, because it's just unusual to have it right in the middle of camp. So there's some different ways they can go about it, so I'm curious to see how they do kind of mix and match. Is it going to be, putting guys in the positions for one practice and then making a move? Or are we switching during practice and kind of rotating some guys in and out? There's some different ways to do it, and I'm curious to see how they try to.
I know you had a specific eye on the offensive line for today's practice. Did you see anything that stood out to you?
Again, I think Casey Collier moves really well when they get on some outside screen passes and stuff. Stood out there. You're looking for someone to step up and be a part of that first group. And by first group, I mean the first 8. Because you need 3 guys that are your backups because you're going to have some injuries. And I still think you're searching for that. I don't feel like there's consistency there with anyone. I think you still have the 4 guys that started last year. You feel confident with them. And you have Justin Dedich, you feel like who's going to be a backup for you and can slot in a couple different interior positions. But besides that, I think there's still some question marks. Cortland Ford has been at left tackle for throughout the first 2 weeks, but he's had some opportunities where the defense is doing some different stunts and stuff, and they're being able to get back into the backfield. So a part of that's communication and those guys working in and finding their slot and who they play best with beside each other. But still definitely some concerns with the rest of that group for sure.
We noted on Tuesday that Max Williams went down during a team period and it looked serious. Well, we did get news later in the week that he did tear his ACL and will be out for 9 to 12 months. So pretty much a year out for Max, and you hate to see that, especially since he came back from a previous ACL injury. But Clay Helton said they're going to do some mixing and matching on the back end to see how those DBs make up for losing a nickel. We actually saw Isaiah Polomau playing nickel. What did you see from that?
Yeah, there was one of the moves that he talked about this morning when we talked to him, was that Isaiah Polomau is going to get an opportunity to come down and be in the box a little bit more, because that's something they're looking for out of that safety position. The nickel safety is someone who can cover, but also can present some physicality, and that's what you get with Greg Johnson. And Max Williams presents that, even though he has a smaller frame. He brings the thump with him from that smaller frame. So they're going to look at Isaiah Polomau right now, and The thing that stood out today, they basically just rotated the guys, that had been starting. So Xavier Alford and Chase Williams were just pushed in the back. But what stood out is a lot of communication issues. You saw Craig Nyvar, the safeties coach, calling out a lot of calls. So I think it's a little, it's 2 days. Basically that he's had to kind of insert it, and so it's a different position, getting lined up correctly. So I think those are, work in progress type of things with that group. But I'm curious to see how they mix and match, if it's, if they stick with that, or if because Isaiah Paul-Mal was their best, center fielder defender last year as well, getting interceptions over the top the last couple seasons. So, do they see someone else that kind of fits that bill a little bit better? How are you kind of working that? And where are those new guys? Are we going to see those guys mix in at different spots as well?
Mm-hmm. As far as the inside linebackers go, we got to see the return of Raylan Goforth, and then I thought Kanai Malga had a good day, at least in the first team period. What did you see from that position group?
Yeah, Kanai Malga was flying all over the place in the inside the box, which is where he's been really good in the past, but also a couple swing passes to Keontae Ingram. Sorry.
He's a new guy.
I was thinking Xavier Alford on the other side of the ball. But Keontae Ingram is a guy that is elusive, and we saw him make a couple guys miss in some different opportunities. But Kanai Malga was on him both of those times and made back-to-back plays out in space on him, which is a really good sign for their linebackers there. You not only got Raylan Goforth back in full pads, but you got Drake Jackson back. Yep. You got Chris Steele back. He said Clay Helton said this morning that Brew McCoy would be coming back next week. So getting those guys back is a positive, because now you see the depth of that defense. The young guys got some opportunities. Now you got to see that those starters, if they can get in there and make some plays as well.
Mm-hmm. As far as injuries go, we got an update from Clay Helton. Josh Follow has a bone bruise in his knee, which is good news considering it looked serious at the time. And then during practice, we saw Brandon Keely come off of a play pretty gimpy, but he went back in and played, and then he went down. It looked like a left leg injury, maybe an ankle, but we don't know the status of that, but he did not return for the rest of practice.
Yeah, you had Brandon Keely go down. Jacob Lichtenstein, who Clay Helton said, we saw him leave Tuesday's practice. He said it was back spasms then. Saw him walking around pretty stiff today, so maybe you had a reoccurrence of that. He left, stopped participating, I guess, in practice. Didn't really leave practice necessarily. But you had Kobe Pepe also go down Tuesday. Clay Helton said it's a shoulder issue there. That's one that sounded a little bit iffy about if he's going to be able to make it back by the end of the spring. With Lichtenstein and the other guys, they expected him back. Same thing with Follow. They're hoping to get him back by the end of the spring as well, which is a really positive development for them, because like we said on Tuesday when we saw that, or last Saturday, when we saw that, it looked pretty significant the way everyone was kind of consoling him and stuff. So for it not to be significant is a positive sign there. We'll see if the tight ends continue to develop and get more opportunities there. That's one of the positions where keeping an eye on, but no real development there. I feel like that's kind of the case with several positions where I feel like, okay, let's keep an eye on this group, and we haven't seen anything really stand out that's much different than last year so far.
Well, one of the position groups that we haven't mentioned that's pretty important is quarterbacks. What did you see from the quarterback play? I feel like that's something that we didn't come away today being like, that's a key issue we should talk about.
No, several interceptions. Saw some interceptions in the one-on-ones. I was tracking those. It was hard to keep up with who was the quarterback because they were switching so quickly, and it was on the opposite end of the field. So I was trying to figure out which number 6 was getting interceptions, because there was multiple interceptions by, I believe, Isaac Taylor Stewart today. It could have been one each for Joshua Jackson and ITS. But the DBs were on it. Isaiah Paul-Mal had an interception in the slot on a walk-on, but just a nice play on it. So the quarterbacks now one-on-ones, you're just throwing the ball, trying to throw the route. So I don't really worry about the interceptions there. However, in the team period, you had multiple interceptions as well. Keaton Slovis had, I believe, 3 interceptions today. He had back-to-back plays with interceptions. Now, one of them wasn't his fault. Went right through the hands of John Jackson III. And nice play by Xavier Alford, making a diving catch on it. Chase Williams had an interception. Jaden Williams, Mo Hassan had a really nice throw to a walk-on. A little bit of a push-off, a little bit of chicken wing. The refs didn't call anything there. Nice catch on the sideline. Try to go back to the same player next play, and Jaden Williams is all over it, steps in front of it, takes it about 75 yards for a pick 6. So Jaden Williams making plays, which is a positive there, because the cornerback depth is pretty limited. But I think that the quarterbacks really struggled today, and I think part of it is they're not having a ton of time to throw the ball. So it all comes back to the offensive line providing some opportunities as well.
I know people are going to hear that Keaton Slovis threw 3 picks and get concerned, especially with what we saw in 2020, which wasn't bad, but I think fans are a little concerned. What do you take away from that performance? And on the whole, what do you take away at this point of camp?
I just think the defense is so far ahead right now that it's making it difficult for anyone on the offense. Now the running backs have a better opportunity because you throw some of those swing passes, get in space, they can make a guy miss. Quarterback, you're not making a guy miss. They're calling a play dead and everything. So I think it's very tough on them right now. And receivers, we haven't seen Brew McCoy out here and no Kyle Ford. So you're not getting a ton of separation right now from those guys as you're continuing to work, as you talked about on the Family Feud podcast about not having the kind of the chemistry, the synergy with those wide receivers yet. We didn't see a ton of Drake London yet today either. He just wasn't participating as much. The young guys got some more opportunities. So I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing some of the quarterbacks struggle is because you're not having Drake. You're not throwing a Drake London, Brew McCoy, and Kyle Ford out there. A little bit different when you're throwing to a walk-on or a true freshman out there trying to make a play.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Alrighty, Shotgun, any final thoughts before we wrap it here at USC's campus?
No, I mean it's good to see them back in pads and to see it, but I'm a little bit concerned about how far behind it seems like the offense is right now with the defense. We'll see if there's some steps taken, and I'm curious to see what next weekend looks like. Spring game, we're a week away from the spring game, and it sounds like they're going to be a full bore game. How do you kind of break that up, and where are you at after that game? As far as today, it seems like the defense is so far ahead of them. Are we going to see that again next week, or can the offense start making up some strides here? That's what I'll be kind of watching this week coming up.
Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's sixth practice of spring camp. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.